Hey everyone, welcome. We'll give a few more minutes for people to jump on and we'll get started. All right, people are still jumping on, but we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're at in the world. Welcome to our webinar for BillingBot. BillingBot's a tool designed to streamline the invoicing process for MSPs, specifically with HaloPSA. I'm Tyler Miller. I'm the president and CEO of TechPulse and TechPulse Cloud Concepts, and I'll be kind of acting as the moderator today. Just a quick background, TechPulse, we're a fully operating managed service provider, and we started up TechPulse Cloud Concepts to get BillingBot, up and running and deliver that to all of you and our peers. We're joined by two guests today. First, we have Christopher Scaminaci, also known as Siege the MSP Automator. Chris is the Vice President of Engineering at TechPulse and the creator of BillingBot. His deep understanding of HaloPSA and his innovative approaches to solving the unique challenges faced by MSPs have made BillingBot the comprehensive solution it is today. You also see Chris around in the MSP community. He hangs out a lot in the HaloPSA Discord, our own TechPulse Discord, and he also is behind the blog mspautomator.com. And he also contributes to various open source projects around the community. So welcome, Chris.
Thanks.
We also have Morgan Aspinall. He's the product manager for HaloPSA. Morgan brings a wealth of knowledge about HaloPSA and has played a crucial role in bringing HaloPSA where it is today. And HaloPSA support was crucial in us making BillingBot not just a tool, but a strategic asset for MSPs. So welcome, Morgan. Glad to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. So while people keep jumping on, we'll get started. Today we want to share some insights into HaloPSA and BillingBot's features as well, and some of the benefits around that and the operational impact it can have on MSPs and is having on MSPs. Before we dive into that and do a demo of the platform, I'd like to kind of ask a few probing questions if you guys don't mind.
Sure.
So we'll start with you, Chris, but this goes to Morgan as well. If each of you can just share a bit about your background and your role in the development of your respective products.
Sure. So obviously a lot of you are probably partner MSPs of TechPulse, so welcome. And for those of you seeing me the first time, nice to meet you. I have been, in the MSP industry for a long time. I came to TechPulse about 5 or 6 years ago. I have a big background in cloud infrastructure and development. BillingBot was kind of a passion project of mine when I was still working at a high level of escalation at the TechPulse help desk. We ran into some issues that were slowing down our billing process, especially with PAX8. And I developed Invoice Bootstrapper, which was, a little PowerShell tool that does the same thing that kind of BillingBot does. And that kind of started the whole process, right? So then here we are several years later with a SaaS platform and working with Halo to help develop an awesome product. So,
yeah,
awesome.
And I've been at Halo for about 4 years, just shy of 4 years now. I don't have any direct MSP experience, but I spent a few years helping onboard MSPs into HaloPSA. So developed a wealth of knowledge around best practices from that standpoint. But I've always been technical and I've always been interested in the development side. So I kind of, in tandem with that, taught myself the API and started making small changes. And that role developed into what it is at Halo today. Halo is a little bit different from the conventional companies in that we don't have very well-defined job titles. Product manager is just a label for it, I suppose. But really, I do a lot of things at Halo. One of which is help vendors who are looking to integrate with Halo, and help them understand the API authentication flow, and also help them from the business workflow standpoint. Also get involved in the direction of our roadmap from time to time. So yeah.
Cool deal. Chris, can you just quickly share a little history about the creation of BillingBot and like what specific needs it addressed, and how does it stand out from other solutions similar that are on the market?
Yeah. So, like I said, BillingBot started as Invoice Bootstrapper, right? It was a PowerShell tool. It was a very rough kind of band-aid solution for rebilling Pax8 because we historically have sold a lot of Pax8 at TechPulse, and it was something that would take 7 to 10 days for somebody to go through and like manually reconcile those Pax8 charges against your invoices. If you're trying to bill at the first of the month, and maybe then you're actually billing your Pax8 more than 30 days in arrears. There's a lot of considerations that go into rebilling distributor invoices that are really hard to get right unless you live in it every single day. And it's difficult. It's really hard. So we kind of developed that in-house tool to solve the problem for us, right? And it was a bespoke solution for TechPulse. Well, when we started doing HaloPSA implementations, we found that this was actually a more widespread issue than we thought. And it's not even a HaloPSA deficit at all. It's all PSAs have to be built in a way that everybody can use them, and that excludes or precludes you from developing certain features that may be bespoke to certain markets or industries or the way that certain MSPs operate. So it's really hard, to get it right. So as we were doing implementations, we were like, maybe we need to bring this to the market. We need to bring this to the industry. The community needs this. So we did it. And it's been a grueling 18 months, I think, but we did it. And here we are. BillingBot is out in the wild. People love it. We're getting great feedback. We're really proud of what we put out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we were able to put out such a great product because of Halo's, from my perspective, from our MSP perspective, right? Halo's billing and invoicing modules, right? I think is leaps and bounds ahead of their competitors, right? So Morgan, are you able to speak a little bit just kind of about the trials and triumphs involved with building that, specifically like the invoicing and billing modules, and how does the team begin to look at that since there's so many needs around the world, from different MSPs?
For sure, yeah. I mean, it's kind of an echo of Chris's point there in the answer is piece by piece. So I remember a time before recurring invoices. I remember the release that included recurring invoices. So it's not a matter of one version, it's all in there. This has been painstaking releases and development work over a number of years to get it to the point that it's at today. And I suppose one of the core challenges there is how do you make the process simple for the MSP? Because you can't eradicate complexity, you can only shift it from one place to another. So to make it as easy as possible for the end user experience, we needed to shift complexity, more into the back end. And it's interesting what you said there about the different needs for different sort of geographies. I'd say that more or less at a very high level, the trends are global, which I guess is a good thing for us because that makes things a little bit more straightforward. But yeah, I mean, I speak to MSPs in America, in Australia, in the UK, and everyone faces the same challenges, and people more or less have a similar setup from a business standpoint, which does make things a little bit more straightforward from Halo's perspective. But yeah, the bottom line is you tackle one problem at a time, and yeah, that's you build a castle brick by brick.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
well, it's working.
That's a really good point about shifting complexity, because that's exactly what it is. Usability and complexity are an inverse curve like this, and somewhere they intersect.
Sure.
But they intersect in a different place for every single feature. So, and every time you implement something new, it may break 3 other things and behind it. So it's exactly what it is. It's a shell game. You're pushing the complexity around, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. All right. Well, Chris, you want to get into a demo here? I'll kind of set it up, so as we said, BillingBot's a we created a powerful middleware solution, right, for HaloPSA that automates and simplifies the invoicing, targeting specifically on third-party products, distributor invoices like Pax8. So I can process invoices from multiple sources, apply custom rules and modifications, and just really try to get those, generate and achieve those consistent invoices for your clients without a huge time suck. So yeah, Chris, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you for the demo.
Absolutely, thank you. And I am committing the cardinal sin of demoing a not for release build. This is a beta build because I want to show you guys some cool stuff that's new. So if it crashes on me, we will go back to production. But sure. So let's kind of start from the top. Where does BillingBot come into the cycle of invoicing? And really, anywhere you want is the answer to that, right? We recognize that there are a lot of different ways people bill. And I started out my journey in this thinking there is one right way to bill. And I have come full circle on that, or maybe not quite full circle, but I am now of the belief that if you're billing and it's efficient and you're getting your bills right every time, I don't think there's a wrong way to bill. And so we designed BillingBot to bolt into Halo in a way that it's flexible and we're trying to account for all of the different situations in which people may invoice. So I guess I'll start here with our settings and configuration, because this kind of highlights really how we're thinking about invoice cycles and invoice behavior in Halo. So the first thing we do when we set up is we grab some default settings, and these default settings are global for the entire platform. And they include a default accounts code, a default expense code, a default tax code, and a default item code. And those four things correlate to a chart of accounts in the front and back end for your purchase and your COGS, right? They account for a default tax code, where we can also use things like auto lookup, and we're accounting integration aware. So if you're using things like automatic sales tax and QBO, we detect that and we deal with it. And then we have the default item code because there are several operating modes in which we manage the product lifecycle for you. And we need to know if we do need to create an item or link to an item with a default code, what default code we want to use. And people might ask why you might do that. Well, there's this awesome feature in Halo called linked items. And if you're billing your subscriptions against linked items, because all of your third-party resale for cloud might go to the same chart of accounts, you don't necessarily need more than one product. You can use a linked item, set those default account codes that way, and we can just pick up on that and push your items across that way.
Hey,
which
Chris.
kind of brings me into, yeah, go ahead.
And let me stop you. Are you able to zoom in just a little bit on the platform? I think they can see it, but I think our video's still up there, and so it's, yeah, there you go. I think that helps.
There we go.
Perfect.
Yep. So that takes me into like managing the product life cycles, right? Which is one of the big things that BillingBot tries to solve for. The product lifecycle management is actually one of the worst pieces of third-party distributor invoicing. I don't know if Morgan would agree with me or not, but the product lifecycle between the PSA, the external distributor, and your accounting integration is a very delicate balance to maintain. And we had to design BillingBot in a way that we could manage the product lifecycle the way people want, but also take into account the different behaviors that enabling or disabling certain accounting integrations in Halo can alter, right? Like, for instance, turning on the automatic sales tax in QuickBooks Online has direct consequences on tax processing in Halo because it's not going to do it, right? It's going to pull it from QBO and when it syncs the invoice. So there's about 1 million of those things that are, little micro considerations that we had to trudge through when we're doing beta, where it's like, okay, let's put out a release. All right, who can break it? All right, the QuickBooks people broke it. All right, is it still working for Xero? Great, and it's 1 million iterations of that. But when we're managing your product lifecycle, we give you 3 options, and that is to prompt me to manually reconcile new, missing, or unmatched products. So we've detected that there's a new SKU on one of your distributor invoices that is not yet in HaloPSA. What do you want us to do? That's option 1. Option 2 is to automatically use the default item code. So if you are using linked items, you would pick that option. And anytime we detect a new SKU, we're just going to link it to that same item because it's going to use the same cloud reads or same income and expense accounts. And then the third option, which is probably what most people will use, would be to create items in HaloPSA automatically using the default income, expense, and tax codes defined above. So when we do that, we actually get a sweet item group here in the products area of Halo called BillingBot. And under the BillingBot area, we've got all of our SKUs. And all of these SKUs are linked to QuickBooks Online or to Xero, and they're sent forward with all of our nice income and expense accounts, and everything is kind of just managed for you. If BillingBot detects a new SKU in the next month, it will create that SKU if it doesn't already exist in Halo. Oftentimes I'll get a question at this point where people will say, okay, but what about if I've already got all my products inside of Halo? Well, great. We're going to latch on to what you already have in there, and then we'll create what's missing. And outside of product lifecycle management, we've got global modifiers. So these global modifiers define 4 specific invoice behaviors that we have determined to be the most common requested, right? The first one being collapsing Azure lines. This is something that's really tricky to do, processing the invoice, right? Is that if you're selling Azure through Pax8 or even through Ingram or DNH or any CSP, your invoice is going to have like 1,000 arrears and prorate charges for all the little microservices you consumed for that period, right? Or that subscription consumed. And you're going to have one of those for each Azure subscription for each client you're selling Azure to. That's a lot of lines. I think the most I've ever seen was like 3 million lines. Most MSPs collapse that down. They've already set their margin in the Pax8 portal on that subscription. So really, they just need to send them one line across, not 10,000 lines on their invoice. So collapse Azure lines does exactly that. We take all of those Azure prorate charges or arrears, collapse them down into one line and send it across to the invoice. Also have the ability to drop Azure lines. So if maybe you're selling Azure Backup, but it's included in your stack. You don't want to charge for it, but you need to create it as a bundled item in Halo so you can track profitability against it. That's where drop Azure lines would come in. Favorable pro rata would drop lines that have a negative pro rata value. So they terminated a license midway through the month and they were due, a couple $1 refund. So it's a negative pro rata. Some MSPs drop those, some MSPs pass those through as credits to their clients. That controls that behavior. And then dropping $0 lines. So if we see a $0 line, drop it. And then finally, global invoice behavior. So the global invoice behavior dictates what BillingBot does in its automatic processing mode, right? So if we are going to just create new invoices every time we process, from Pax8 or Twilio or whatever integration processing from, if you are an MSP that bills your subscription licensing on a separate invoice every month, that's the option for you. If you want to always append charges to the latest invoices in Halo, so maybe you have some kind of automation that triggers your recurring invoices to run every month, or you're using the built-in automatic creation, once those invoices generate, BillingBot will attach the charges to the end of those invoices. So that's for people if you want to run your invoices in Halo first. And then finally, the mode that most people will use would be to append these charges directly to the recurring invoices in Halo. So if you just want us to latch onto your recurring invoice and update the line quantities every month when we detect a new invoice, that's what that mode is doing. So that's kind of like the overview of what the behaviors are globally, and these can all, of course, be set individually at the client level, be overridden at the client level, and there's a lot more to it than that, really. But I'm going to go over here and look at what a processed Pax8 invoice looks like here. So we can see that we've got tons of lines here, tons of Azure lines. I'm going to exclude some of these clients that have small amounts, just so we can get a better look. Let's look at this big one. So these guys got 153 lines. I'm going to guess those are all Azure lines, and it looks like that. So I can actually change the behavior of this specific company if I want, right? I can say, maybe these guys aren't going to use the global invoice assignment. They're going to actually create a new invoice specifically for this client. Or maybe I want to do things like map this entire client to another client, or maybe just a specific charge at this client to another client, I can do that too. But just for sake of demonstration, I'm going to filter my right grid. I'm going to select all these charges, and I'm going to queue them for Halo. And when we queue for Halo, what we do is we create a line package. And this line package is the collection of lines that I've queued for Halo. So this could just be all, this could just be an automatic process that you never interact with, but this shows me what my process lines look like before they're going to go to Halo. And you can see I've got my Microsoft Azure plan has been collapsed down from 153 lines into 1. My profit margin came over from PAX 8. If I need to make any adjustments here, I can do so. And it's going to show me here all of the lines that were collapsed down to make this, right? This is kind of like an expanded view. Now, if I've decided that this is okay, I'm going to send this to Halo, I can just send my charges. They're going to go over to my invoice, and they're going to show up. Our nice little item header. We've got all of our product IDs linked, and we've synced forward to QuickBooks Online because we're holding that connection open, right? We've got all of our nice terms printed in the lines so that we know when these start, when these end. We picked up things like the January partials. We picked up all of our reserve charges, our arrears, and everything, and it's all just kind of gone to Halo. But there's more to it than that because we're also doing things like backing up these invoices before we touch them. So before we make any kind of edits or posts to an invoice that already exists in Halo, whether that's an existing invoice, a recurring invoice, anything, we back it up and we back that data up to create, analytics and reports. But also you can roll these back anytime you want, or go back and look at your invoice history. How many people here have, made an edit to your recurring invoice and ruined it? Maybe you cleared all your lines on accident and you got to go spend 20 minutes, setting all the individual settings. Well, you can now just restore it from BillingBot. If I really want to, I can just select this. I can see what it looked like before I made any changes, and I can roll it back. Now I've rolled my invoice back, and it went back to how it was before I did anything, right? There's a lot to it, a lot more to it than that. I think a very common scenario is PAX 8 bills a lot of things consumption-based, right? So sometimes those charges will come into your home tenant, right? So TechPulse will get billed for SentinelOne, or it's another one, Red Store, I think is another one, right, Tyler? So those charges will come in at your home company, but they'll have the name of the target company in them. So if you want to track those things, like say for bundled items in Halo, so that you know this is something to calculate against my profitability on this client, you can do that by maybe selecting that line and then cross-mapping that product to a different company. BillingBot will then remember those charges, those charge mappings in the future. So the next time it sees SentinelOne or Red Store for that client, it will send it across to the correct invoice automatically. You can do that at the company level, or you can do that at the individual line level in BillingBot. You can also include, exclude lines. So if there's things that maybe you just don't bill for, Breach Secure Now, Iron Scale seem to be common ones, right? You can just exclude that line and it'll never go forward to Halo. That'll be remembered in the future as well. So we've also got the ability now to do CSV imports. So some distributors like to give you an invoice in CSV format when you're a reseller. It is frequently quite annoying to deal with because every vendor does it in a different format. We tried to be aware of that when we were building our universal CSV import. And the way we built it is to make it truly universal, right? We're going to let you build your own kind of integration here where you're going to upload your CSV, or you're going to give us a URL we can retrieve it at automatically every month or every billing cycle. And we're going to try to automap those fields, right? And if we can automap those fields, we will. Otherwise, we'll have I think it's 4 or 5 minimum fields we require, and then we'll save that for the future. So the next time we either retrieve that CSV automatically, or you upload that CSV, we're going to recognize it. We're going to process it to your invoice automatically. So truly like a bespoke formatting. This isn't like download the CSV, paste it into a different template, and then re-upload the CSV. This is just give it to us the way the distributor gives it to you. And then finally, I want to show you just a little sneak peek here of our soon-to-be-coming OrderBot stuff, right? So OrderBot is going to be, we think, the next tier of BillingBot, where we're going to deal with hardware procurement and stuff like that. But for the time being, BillingBot's going to be gaining the functionality of invoice processing. So things like hardware invoices, Ingram Micro, D&H, TD Synnex, those are coming down the pipe now. Ingram, we're going to be shipping and BillingBot here in the next week or two, looks like. But we'll be able to do the exact same thing you do with something like Pax8 or Twilio, match those charges to an existing client in Halo, generate the invoice, or generate the sales order, or generate the purchase order. And then, maybe later in the summer or towards fall, we'll be working our way towards an OrderBot release, which will actually do the real-time pricing and availability, the tracking, the reconciliation against Halo, and all that kind of stuff. But that's the nickel tour there, Tyler. So take it away. If anybody wants to see anything, I'm happy to take questions, comments, concerns.
That's pretty neat. I didn't obviously I've seen BillingBot. I didn't realize it had the backup function. That's quite cool. Because as we're all aware, these kinds of invoices can get very complicated very quickly, and you want a way to easily roll back from a change. So yeah, I like that. It's a good idea.
We're figuring out, how do we generate good metrics on this stuff universally, right? Because metrics, KPIs, mean different things to different shops. And we're like, well, if we have to vectorize and store this data some way anyway, we might as well back it up before we're making any changes, because that's the best way to do it, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And yeah, the two things kind of just melded together and worked out real nice.
Yeah, I know you grazed over it too, but like the cross mapping the companies too, like sometimes, especially in our MSP, right, we run into whether it's multiple Microsoft tenants need to be built to one client or vice versa, right? Sister companies, things like that. We run into that a lot, so that it gives us the ability to set those mappings, and it remembers it, so you don't have to do it again.
Yeah, it's probably one of like most requested features in beta. Our beta testers, if any of you guys are here, thank you. I hate you all, but thank you. That was a very requested thing, being able to cross map, because so much stuff is consumption built in Pax8, and it comes to your home MSP tenant. What are you supposed to do with that? Just what if you've got? I have one beta tester. It's like 730 clients that they bill from Pax8 through Halo every month. Imagine going through it, just doing 730 lines if there's one per client. I can't even imagine if they have to do more.
Yeah. If you have any questions, go ahead and type them in the Q&A, and we'll get them answered for you. While we wait on that, Chris, can you talk a little bit about, when choosing a technology stack, when you were building BillingBot, did the stack Halo is built on influence your decision at all, or what went into that process and decision?
Absolutely. So I'm a big .NET guy. I've been a .NET guy for longer than I've been in the MSP industry. We've been quite partial to C#. And when I was looking for a platform to convert BillingBot and to create OrderBot, I was looking for something modern. Web API has kind of been the standard in the industry forever because it's great and it gets constant updates, and it's just .NET incarnate. It's the best thing ever. And I believe that's the backend that runs, Halo. Correct me if I'm wrong, Morgan, but so we went with the full Microsoft stack as well, right? So, but Azure SQL in the back end, we did a Blazor web API on the back end, and then BillingBot is actually a WebAssembly Blazor front end. So .NET 8, we're doing interfaces code. The difference between Blazor and something like React is that we're writing our front end in C# and not JavaScript. All that JavaScript is kind of done in the WebAssembly automatically for us. And it kind of works the same way that Halo does, right? Where the client is running in the browser and it's making API calls against the backend. That was a model that A, has been proven to be the modern gold standard, and B, something that Halo has proven to be very effective. So we wanted to emulate that.
Yeah, for sure. I'd totally agree. And just to add, it makes integrating applications so much more straightforward. when you're working with REST APIs, which obviously is important for the community to, well, it's important for us, being frank, because it makes us both more sticky. But ultimately, that's because it makes the MSP's life easier. Halo were fortunate enough to be in a position about 5 years ago where we had a 25-year-old Windows application that we knew needed to be redefined. And we had the opportunity to really sit down and make sure that we got it right. So, you know, we fought long and hard about the technology that we were going to be using. And yeah, I guess it's paid off.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And obviously it has, because everybody's rushing to Halo because of the interface and it's put together well, and it's an open ecosystem where you're not, working to build walls around the way that people can build and integrate things to Halo. That's the winning formula, right? Is like Autotech and ConnectWise, yeah, they have APIs, but are they as flexible and open about it? Are they looking for honest feedback from the community and implementing it? Nope.
Yeah.
It's a game changer.
Yeah. I mean, if you're savvy enough to open up the developer console in the browser and you have any understanding of something even as simple as PowerShell, then you can build an integration with Halo. Like it is that straightforward. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, when we were looking for a new PSA, right? That was a huge part of why we went with Halo in the first place. Its flexibility in that regard.
Yeah, it's something I hear a lot. I talk with a lot of vendors who either have recently or are in the process of building integrations into HaloPSA. And the first thing they say is this all of your API documentation? And I say, yes, it is, unfortunately. But then I quickly turn around and I say, but really, Halo itself is one big interactive API doc. Just open up the network tab, look at that API traffic, and away you go. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's actually, I'm not going to use the API doc at all. I'm just going to use Halo. I'm going to click around and see what happens.
That's our favorite thing is, I know if Mikey's watching this, he's fidgeting in his seat, but everybody that comes into the Halo Discord, they're like, hey, can you do this in the API? We're like, if you can do it in the interface, you can do it in the
API. That's what I say. Yeah. If you can do it, yeah, that's it. If you can do it in the front end, you can do it in the back end.
Chris, I was going to have you talk a little bit about, what integrations currently we have and what's coming down the pipe, but I also have a comment. We had someone says, this looks cool, guys, and a real time saver. We currently transact Microsoft licenses through Dicker Data. Have you looked into this as an integration yet?
Yes. Hello, Australian friends, or New Zealand friends. Yes, Dicker Data, I believe, is on the roadmap at ideas.billingbot.app. I believe we were going to look at Leader as well, but Leader actually has a really good Halo integration of their own, so we didn't need to do it for Leader. But right now we've got Pax8 is obviously our crown jewel integration. We've got Twilio, Universal CSV Import, Ingram Micro hardware is coming in the next couple of weeks. D&H hardware is coming in the next couple of weeks. TD Synnex hardware is going to be coming in the next month or two. And then we've got Ignite billing, and what am I forgetting? Direct Zero and QBO, I believe, is next after that. A lot of cool stuff.
Morgan, so Halo supports, kind of shifting gears here. Halo supports like a bunch of different accounting integrations, right? What does that process look like from a high level when your team designs and implements an accounting integration or a large integration of any kind in Halo PSA? Does someone have to become an expert in that particular thing? How do you approach that?
And how much does it cost to treat their PTSD?
Yeah, I'm looking at the developer right now, and he's like, no, I've had enough. The answer is we do it the same way that we develop everything else, and that is driven by the community. I've said it so many times. We're not going to bother developing something that no one wants developed, but that's also applicable here. Even the things that people do want developed, we're not going to do it in a way that the community aren't already asking for. So from a high level, it's driven by the people that are asking for it, and then from the technical standpoint, it's simply a case of learning the APIs and seeing if it's even possible to do what the person or people want it to do, and take it from there. Which also makes things a bit more straightforward. So it's not necessarily a case of becoming an expert in a particular field. We trust our community to provide that insight.
Big mistake. I'm part of the community.
We take comments with a pinch of salt as well occasionally. So.
Oh, Chris, nope, straight to spam.
All right. Chris, can you go over, obviously we've had, success in our MSP and then through our beta test program and now customers. Can you share like a specific scenario that you can think of where like BillingBot has improved like the MSP's operational efficiency and time saving?
Yeah, I have one real big wow story, and if you're a partner MSP, you've probably heard this wow story before. But before BillingBot was even announced or a thing, and I was still using my old invoice bootstrapper, I had a partner go through implementation years before me, and they came just kind of for some pro services and automation and stuff. And they were telling me the way that they were billing their PAX 8, and I was like, "Have you guys ever, audited what you've charged, what you've invoiced against what you've actually paid to PAX 8?" And they're like, "Well, no. Why would I do that? It's integrated." And they went back, and this is a very large MSP. In the last, I think 8 months before, they had left about $140,000 on the table in prorates and arrears that they weren't reconciling or tracking because they didn't really understand how that process worked or how it was supposed to be configured. So it was a nice hero moment for BillingBot, where we come and be like, well, actually, we've got something coming for you. And we reconnected with that MSP years later, and they're a BillingBot customer now, and their kind of feedback was kind of instrumental in getting BillingBot to what it is.
Nice. I have a question. Are we able to combine multiple vendors to a single line item?
Like multiple vendors from PAX 8 or multiple integrations, like something from Ingram and something from PAX 8 into one line? If it's the latter, no, but I'm not opposed to that if it's something that a lot of people need or want. If it's the former and it's like, I want to take these two things and squeeze them down, then yes, you can do that.
Morgan, just on the HaloPSA side, on the invoicing and billing horizon, is there anything coming down the pipe that you can share with us today that,
Yeah,
get
sure.
excited about?
Yeah, well, we're working on the consumption billing currently, so that's going to be a whole can of worms. I think we've made some good progress on that, so that's coming up. Recently added to the roadmap as well a more generalized way of importing subscriptions via CSV. So for those familiar with HaloPSA, you may be aware of billing profiles, billing import profiles, similar to what Chris demonstrated, where you can construct your own template to import and mapping columns from the CSV into data points in Halo. We're going to be extending that out to the import of subscriptions. So, you won't necessarily need a direct vendor integration for that. And then one of the other things, I hopefully later on in the year, but there's a bit of a wider project for the ease of creation and management of agreements in general. So in terms of BillingBot and HaloPSA, BillingBot will create or update the recurring invoices, but there's a lot that happens prior to that point in Halo to set the recurring invoice up, create the agreement. There are many parameters against agreements around things like charge types that are included, types of work that are included, SLAs, all of that kind of stuff. And at the minute, there's not a great way of easily managing the creation of those agreements on scale. So we're going to be working on extending out our contract type functionality to start being able to template the creation of agreements. And again, that will be tying in with existing functionality in Halo for our billing templates, which is slightly different, but billing templates allow you to template the types of work that might be covered by an agreement or not. And those that use HaloPSA will know that that's a great way to manage those types of specifying what work is covered and what isn't by an agreement on scale. We're going to be implementing something similar for agreements. So yeah, that's what we've got coming up.
I would be remiss if I didn't take my opportunity to slam dunk that I am anti-agreements.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I remember when billing templates came out, and I was like, Reese, this is it. This is what we need.
Yeah.
Billing templates is the best thing since sliced bread. Yeah. There's a lot of valid applications for agreements.
Sure.
But yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see the new stuff for that. That sounds great.
Chris, I mean, since obviously like another thing we like about Halo, right, is they're always, listening to the community and releasing, features and updates and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about how at BillingBot we're keeping up with the latest HaloPSA updates and improvements and making sure, BillingBot continues working with that?
Yeah, we subscribe to the theory of move so fast the bugs can't catch us. No, I have a newfound respect for Halo. That's for sure. It's easy for a lot of people to say, "Oh, well, the documentation or this thing sucks." It's like, no. Now that I've lived it, yeah, mad respect for the team at Halo because it sucks keeping up. Right? It's like, oh yeah, please give me input, advice. I want to know what people want to see in the platform, and then it's like a deluge of 10,000 things that everybody needs added or changed or altered, and it's like, how do you balance all of these little interconnected pieces and make sure that one doesn't break the other and implement everything that everybody wants? It's tough, but our community has been good to us, right? Like the Halo community in general is just good to I think everybody that's willing to engage with them at an honest level, right? They will give you the feedback. They will try your tooling. They will, there's a lot of developers in the Halo community where you don't see that a lot in the ConnectWise or the Autotask community. You may have a lot of people that are implementation experts in those platforms, but we have a lot of developers that are really like on the Halo side, like, Mikey, Kelvin, all of those guys. I guess me, if I count myself in that group, but it's a different, kind of community, and everybody's working together instead of against each other. And I think that was started by Halo's willingness to work with us instead of against us, right? Not build walls around us, embrace the fact that we want to do things differently and give us the tools to do it. And they did, and it's custom integrations, and it's the best thing ever built in any PSA ever. Whoever built that doesn't make enough money, Morgan. That's the best thing ever invented.
Pretty outrageous. It's now just the answer to everything that anyone asks. It's, can you do this really obscure thing in Halo? Yeah, make a runbook. You're all set.
Make a runbook. You can do it with a runbook. You can do anything with a runbook. Yep. Yeah. You can webbook to yourself as a runbook. It's Halo runbookception. Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant.
Yeah, integrating Halo with itself. That's something that I've had a lot of fun doing.
All right, cool. I think we'll go ahead and wrap up. This is awesome. Can you each just share a little bit, Chris, if you want to share a little bit about where they can find more information about BillingBot and kind of where we hang out, and share advice in the community, and then Morgan, same thing. How can how does HaloPSA facilitate the feedback and improvement for the platform? Where do you guys hang out, and where can people reach out?
After you, Chris.
BillingBot.app. So that's where our main page is. If you're a partner, we've got a deal for you. If you're a Tech Tribe member, we've got a deal for you. I think if you're an ASCII member, we've got an upcoming deal, coming down the pipe for you as well. BillingBot.app. Docs are there. Everything's there. We hang out at our TechPulse Pro Services Discord, which is available either from MSPautomator.com or from the TechPulse Pro Services site. We take real-time feedback. I've had somebody report a bug in that Discord, and we, pushed a patch an hour and a half later. So we're highly engaged with the community. Come see us if you want to add things to our roadmap. Ideas.billingbot.app. We definitely stole that from ideas.halopsa.com. So we even use the same software. Nice. But
it's a nice segue as well. So,
for
HaloPSA, ideas.halopsa.com. We're everywhere. We were just saying just before this, we're not everywhere. Tim's everywhere. Tim is real. Tim is one person. I don't know how he does it. But no, we're on Discord, Slack, Reddit. We've got a subreddit. We're on Tech Tribe. If you don't already have HaloPSA and you're interested in taking a look at what it's all about, you can get a trial for free. HaloPSA.com. You don't have to have a demo. There's no real sign-up process. You just go to HaloPSA.com. There's a big start trial button in the top right, and away you go. Yeah. Perfect.
I'm just dropping the links to the Discords here so people can check it out. Cool deal. All right, Morgan, well, we really appreciate you joining us today. Thanks, Chris, for giving us a demo of BillingBot. Thanks for everyone that attended. We'll probably, send the recording and some more information out to everyone that attended. It will also, I believe, upload this to our YouTube so people can rewatch it. But yeah, appreciate everyone. Reach out if you need anything, and hope to hear from everybody soon.
Thanks for having me, guys, and thanks for everyone for watching.
Thanks, Morgan.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye-bye.